morning, boys and girls. I'm Mr. Chris, and welcome to Kids Time. For the next few weeks, we are going to be using the colors of ordinary crayons that you can find in any box to tell you two things. First of all, we're going to tell you a story about David, one of the most popular and well-known people in the Bible. And secondly, we're going to tell you something that God wants you and me to do. Last week, Mr. Brick told us about the color purple, and he said that the color purple represents royalty. We talked about how King David, or David, was chosen by God to be the second king of Israel. Today, we are going to talk about the color gray. Now, I know if I asked most of you what your favorite color is, you would tell me red, blue, green, yellow, and maybe a few of you even like black, but I doubt any of you like the color gray. Honestly, how many times when you're coloring do you use the color gray? If I were to look in your box of crayons, your crayon would probably look just like mine. Have a nice sharp point on it, rarely used. The color gray, for most of us, represents like sadness. It represents times when we're not feeling well. Maybe we're sick. Maybe we can't go to school and see our friends. Maybe we're told we have to stay home. Maybe we're told we have to wear a mask so we don't get sick. It represents a time when we're just not happy. The one person or the one, he's really an animal, I think we can all relate to is Eeyore from the Winnie the Pooh books. Eeyore is always sad. He's always depressed. He's always worried. And that is why he's colored gray. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about David, and then we're going to see what God wants us to do and how he wants us to act when we are sad. Now, last week, David was told he was going to be the next king. Before David can become king, there is a man named Saul who is the king. And Saul, he was an okay king. Some days he was a really good king. And then there were times when he was a very bad king. Saul, it says in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 16, was sent a harmful spirit from the Lord, and this spirit tormented him, and it made him very sad. Saul's servant said to him, "Lord, command your servants who are standing before you to seek out a man who is skillful in playing the flute and the lyre. And when a harmful spirit from God is upon you, this man will play, and you will feel great." So Saul, there were times when he just didn't feel well. And his servants, they were honestly afraid to go and talk to him and to help him when Saul was not in a good mood. He was known to yell and scream and throw things, and he just didn't act very nice. So the servants were smart, and they said, find somebody else who can play, make beautiful music. It'll calm you down and you'll feel better. And guess who they found? You're right, David. David had spent all of his life learning how to play instruments. Not only was he a shepherd, not only did he, fight a lion and a bear and practice shooting rocks with his slingshot, but he could also play instruments. And he played so well that it says in verse 21 that David came to live with Saul and he entered into his service. Saul loved him greatly and he became his armor bearer, which means that David was there to serve Saul. Not a bad story, is it? God used the gifts that he had given David to help Saul through difficult times. Each one of us has a gift. Each one of you has a gift. You might be saying that I'm only 8 years old. I'm only 9 years old. What could God possibly have me do? Well, now is the time for you to learn what you like. Learn what things you're good at. I know some of you will grow up to be musicians like David. I know some of you will grow up to be people who listen really well. I know some of you will grow up to be good athletes and you can relate to people while playing basketball or baseball. God has a gift for each one of you. The color gray can represent sadness and sorrow, but it also can represent a time for you and me to use our gifts to help others. So the next time a friend of yours is sad, talk to them. You might be able to sing to them. You might be able to ask them to go ride your bike or ride a bike with you. But spend time with them, and you will be able to cheer them up like David cheered up Saul. Thank you.